All right, so we're back to Snowtime Productions. I've got one of the legendary producers, Arsonist from Heatmakerz. What's up?
What's up, my brother?
So good to have you on here. You are one of the kings of producing.
I appreciate it, man.
Um, so I just have a couple questions. So like, and I know you've answered this in a couple other interviews I've seen, but kind of when did you start getting into production and how did that come to be?
I started getting into production around 98. I used to go to Howard University in DC and I got kicked out. And when I came home, a friend of mine was he had bought some equipment and he was kind of learning how to use it, and I kind of just kind of piggybacked off of what he was doing. And it kind of, so to answer your question, 98, but it kind of, it happened pretty fast. Like we got our first placement in 99. So it wasn't really
Yeah,
like we weren't one of those producers that was sitting around waiting to get a placement. Everything kind of happened like, back to back to back.
it's just rapid succession at that point, right?
Yeah, for the most part.
That's pretty awesome. So, like, how did you come up with the name Heatmakers?
Well, when we first got our first placement, we were working with a guy who was calling himself our manager. And come to find out, like he robbed us for a couple of thousands of dollars, just because we didn't really understand the industry at the time. And he had the idea of putting together a collective of producers called the Heatmakers. And when we found out he did us dirty, we took the name, incorporated it, and just we left him and we was off to the races. So
Damn,
you
that's a
know,
pretty crazy story for how that
yeah.
came to be.
But the crazy part is, my name was always Arsonist, so it made sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, bringing the heat.
Right. So karma's real, man.
Yeah, for first session with Dipset, kind of like.
The first time I met Dipset, they had already recorded to about, because Dipset got at the time, we were putting our beats on CDs.
Mhm.
At that time, Dipset had gotten the CD full of beats maybe about, I want to say like a week before we met him. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay.
So by the time I met him, it was we was already locked in. Like it was they had about 4 records recorded already. So by the time we got in the studio, they were just playing us records they did. You know what I'm saying? So the first studio session, I didn't even get a chance to see them record. I was just playing them new music and they was playing me the stuff they already did. So
Oh, okay.
it's kind of always been like, since then is we've been like family, man. Like it was, it was never any weird moments. Like how some producers might meet some artists and they just make it weird. It was never like that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like we just kind of did what we did, and then we built a strong friendship that, what shit, 23 years, 24 years later, we still good. So you know,
yeah. So it just like meshed really well, like naturally,
yeah,
right from the jump.
the music we made matched their personality so much that it was like, I I don't think anybody else could have did what we did with them. You know what I'm saying? Like I think
Yeah,
it was just like a perfect combination for what our sound with what they were trying to do.
that's pretty sick.
Getting a chance to do El Capo with Jim was like a bucket list for me. Like I have a bucket list where I want to produce full projects for, well, now Cam and Joel's, just to kind of finish the trifecta. You know what I'm
That
saying?
note, do you guys have anything on the go right now? Like
Who's that? Me, Dipset,
you,
or me? Like me, Jim, me, Cam, Joel's.
yeah.
Well, no, not well. Just me and Jim. Me and Jim constantly work. We just, like,
Mhm.
in my computer right now, I probably got about, no exaggeration, I was looking at it yesterday, maybe about 20 unfinished records from Jim. Where it's just like, the way we normally work is Jim will come in, he'll listen to a shitload of beats, he'll pick one, do a verse to it, probably leave, and then come back and then forgot he did that, and I got to play it for him, and he's like, "Oh, that shit fired," and he might end up finishing it. So it's not what people think it is. Like, yo, he comes in, we do a record, the record is fire, we take, nah, it's almost like the record. Well, at least the way I work with him, I can't speak for other
Mm.
people, but the way me and Jim work is like we do records in pieces. Like he'll come here tonight, do a verse. He might hear another beat before he leave, put 8 bars on it, not even a full verse. And then when he comes back, he's almost surprised by his last. But like, oh shit, I even know I did that. Pull that up. Let me finish that. And that's kind of how El Capo got made. It got made in pieces.
Okay.
Like a lot of the, I don't even want to cheapen the records and make them seem like they were leftovers from Wasted Talent, but a lot of the records we didn't end up putting on Wasted Talent. We ended up refining them and putting them on El Capo.
Oh shit, that's pretty cool. That's a really sick creative process though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so with Dipset Anthem, what was like the studio energy like with that?
Um,
That has a lot of people on it too.
you get. I think people in their brain that people that have never been to a studio in their brain, they have like a misconception that when one of those records are made, everybody's in the room jumping around like, yo, we got one. I've never been involved with that. If that happens, I've never been involved with that. I've been involved with people like, yo, this record is crazy. It could be this, it could be that, but never like a definitive, yo, this is a hit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that in real life. What happens is we do the record, people love it, and we put it out, and then you kind of realize that it's a special record. You know what I'm saying? Dipset Anthem
Yeah.
was no different. I walked into the studio. If I'm not mistaken, Jewels was recording his verse at the time, and I don't even think Cam knew he was going to be on there yet until he heard what Jewels was doing with it. Then I think he threw his, if I remember correctly, but I know Jewels recorded his verse first. That I know for a fact. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
again, it was no elaborate story to tell you like everybody in the room knew this was it. It wasn't that. It was just everybody liked the record, but when it came out, that
Hmm.
shit grew legs of its own and kind of just took off.
I think that's a good way to put it. Just took off.
Yeah, you cause look, man, let me tell you something. Anybody else
Hmm.
that ends up watching this interview, anytime somebody tells you like this is how you make a hit, these are the type of sounds that's in a hit, this is what a hit sounds like, they're full of shit. If anybody on this planet could tell you how to make a hit time and time again, they'd be the richest person in the world. All of us creatives. I don't give a fuck if it's somebody that sold 10 million records, 100 million records to the person that sold 2 records. We're all experimenting every day trying to figure out what it is that's going to make the people react. That's all we're doing. None of us know for a fact. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
guarantee you, if you ask a lot of people who have quote unquote hit records, 9 out of 10 of them will tell you, I had no clue this was going to be the record that won.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
this is what makes what makes the music industry so beautiful to me is that every day is a guessing game. It's kind of like, will I make something today that changes the world or changes my life or changes somebody else's life? Or you understand? Like, we don't know.
Hmm.
We know we have the ability to do it, but we don't know if today the stars are going to line up and we're going to make the perfect record with the perfect artist to write the perfect verse. Or you understand? Like, we don't know.
Yeah,
We
for
just
sure.
hope so. And we're all in the same fight. Some people have been luckier than others, but anybody that tries to feed you that bullshit of this is a hit, this is what a hit sounds like, they're full of shit. Nobody knows, man. Nobody knows.
That's fair. And then with um like on that line of things that people get like misconceptions about and stuff, what are
Right.
some misconceptions that people have about like what a producer does?
I think people don't understand that production is everything after the beat is made. They think a producer, he makes the beats and now he produced a song. Yes, in
Hmm.
a sense, you're the producer of the track, but you're not necessarily producer of the song. Like the misconception about producers is that they just make the beat. They're not in control of how the song is arranged, how the artist might deliver the hook, how the artist might deliver the verse, which verse the artist chooses to pick first or second. It's like I've been involved with sessions where the artist will do a whole song, and I'm like, I feel like your second verse is your first verse. We need to switch that around, and that changes everything. It might sound like a simple thing to do, but without that, the song might not go as far as it should go because if the first verse isn't, really pleasing to the ears like that, they might just skip it and not even get to the second verse. So to answer your question, the misconception is that the producer's job is done after the beat is made. When
Okay.
in all actuality, the producer job starts after the beat is made.
It's like the whole process, like all the way to the
Right.
finish
It's
line.
everything, man. It's like when you hear certain shit and you wonder, why the artist said a particular line that way, or why there's a drop there, or why there's a special effect on this part of the verse. That's the producers doing, like, you know what, I think this would sound better if we did this. Let's try this. Let's try to move this verse over here. Let's not start off with the hook. Let's start off with the verse, or vice versa. You understand? Like little things like that. That's a producer's job, is to figure out the minor details that might hinder the song from getting to where it needs to get to.
With like the on the note of processes and getting through everything, there's a lot of like
Right.
AI and shit like that coming in to play
Right.
in like just the world in general. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you feel about that kind of coming into the musical world?
I mean, it's certain things are inevitable, man. Like you can, I've met a bunch of producers and artists who cry about it, and nah, I would never fuck with that. And I felt that way at first, So I'm not gonna sit here and lie like I didn't feel that way at first. But I just realized that at the end of the day, it's either you become familiar and friendly with something as opposed to trying to fight it.
Yeah.
There's no fighting. At the end of the day, AI, whether we like it or not, it's here.
Yeah.
It's not going nowhere. We're not going to wake up tomorrow and they're going to say, you know what, we decided to do away with AI. That's not happening. So before you fall too far behind, you have to figure out how you can use it to your advantage. And that's kind of where I'm at. It's like I'm a guy who samples records, but I've also paid a shitload of money to clear samples. So how can AI work for me? Can I make my own samples through AI? Of course I can. So what I'm saying is find out a way that it can work for you and you won't be as angry about it for the people that are angry about it. It's like
That's fair.
there's
Yeah.
no running from it.
Yeah. It's like the you can't beat them, join them.
Right, because what's going to happen is you're going to try to ignore this thing for the next 2 years. And then by the time you decide to embrace it, you're too far behind. The learning curve is too crazy, and now you can't learn it the way other people that have been on it for the previous 2 years know it. So
Yeah.
I don't want to be the guy that's behind the eight ball just because I'm angry at technology. And that to me that's an ignorant way of thinking.
Yeah. You kind of have to be open to what's pushing the world forward,
Right,
even if
like
it's
at the
negative
end
or
of the day,
positive.
man, like life is give and take, man. Like I say this on every interview, man, but I live by the saying, if you can't be used, you're useless. You know what I'm saying? And
Hmm.
it's the same thing for things like AI and technology. Can I use it to my benefit? Of course I can. So that means that it's useful. So if it's useful, that why wouldn't I use it? Am I gonna spite myself just because I feel a certain way? Like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
If something can cut my work time in half by hours, what do I look like saying I'm not even gonna explore, you know what I mean, the possibilities that I'd be ignorant to do that. So I
Yeah,
would
for
just
sure.
give that advice to anybody, man. It's like, yeah, you might feel a way about AI, but it's not going nowhere. So either you embrace it or you get run over by it at some point.
That's pretty accurate. So if you were to tell some young producer just like how to find their own sound, what would some tips be that you give them?
Um, I would say all the things that you do when you're producing that you might feel weird about because you don't hear it all over the place and it sounds like you're the only one doing that. Perfect that. You know what I mean? Like when I was making beats and I used to when I was younger and I was making beats and I used to do my hi-hats a certain way and it wasn't traditional. It was kind of like nobody else is doing this and it sounded at one point like it was going against the beat. I just learned how to refine that and turn it into my own thing and embrace it because the last thing you want to do as a producer is to have music that sounds like 85% of the other producers that could be potentially sending beats to that artist.
Yeah.
What, like, you understand, like, because then it becomes a popularity contest. If I have two emails, if I'm an artist and I have two emails from two separate producers and the beats sound the same, but one has a bigger name than the other, 9 out of 10 times you're gonna go with the guy with the bigger name just because it's a status symbol. And
Yeah.
if you want to avoid that, you have to create your own sound. And when I say that, I don't. Some producers think like there's a certain way to do that. You being who you are, making music the way you know how to make music is your own sound. You just have to stray away from trying to do what is expected of you. You understand? Like,
Yeah.
I know producers, I've been around, this is one of the things that I hate the most. I've been around producers who look at the Billboard charts and they look at the top 5 records and they're like, okay, cool, this is what people want, and they try to mimic that. To me, go get a 9 to 5 if you're gonna do that. That's not creativity. That's just like, I want to make a dime, and what's the fastest way to do it? That's like buying a Gucci bag and trying to make the knockoff Gucci bag because you know Gucci bags are selling. It
Yeah.
doesn't, you know what I mean? That's like, that's one of the corniest things in the world you can do. To me, there's no better feeling than winning with your own ideas and your own thoughts and things that people didn't think of. It's like, you look at, let's just take I'm Ready, for example. I did I'm Ready I made that beat in 2001. It didn't come out till 2003, but I made that beat in 2001. That beat has been sampled by fucking J. Cole, has been sampled by Kanye, has been sampled by Lil Yachty. You understand? Because we did, even though I sampled something, what I did with that record broke down a boundary for people to be like, oh shit, like I didn't even know that sample could do that. Now, in order to get that feel that I created, they have to mimic what I did, which is, it is what it is. But I'm saying all that to say, once you create a sound, people have to use what you did to create that same feeling until they can figure out a way to create their own shit.
That's
So,
fair.
I'm so creating your own sound, man, it's not no overnight shit. It's like, where did you grow up? What was your environment like? What are you like? All of that goes into your sound. The way you do things is based off of who you are and what your environment is. It's like a lot of my early samples, the drum programming was different because I grew up in a Jamaican household that listened to reggae music. So I didn't know how to do drums like how traditional hip hop producers did drums. I only knew how to do it the way I heard on reggae records. So all of that went into my sound. It was like the way I did drums, the way I chopped samples, the type of samples I chose to chop, the speed I would have the samples at, the groove I would create. All of that goes into your sound. It's like I never listened to anybody else and said I want to sound like that. I was fans of other producers. Like I was, I was a fan of Premier. I was a fan of Buck Wild. I was a fan of Dr. Dre, RZA. All of these producers I was a fan of, but I never once wanted to sound like them. And
Yeah.
honestly, if I made something that felt like it sounded like them, I tried to deviate from that because I'm like, I don't even want to be, you know what I mean? Like, this is their shit. I kind of want to find a way to do some whole other shits, and which was kind of my approach to even to this day.
Yeah. Well, and like on that note, with those people that and yourself now, you guys are all where you're at because you found that sound. And so to like
Right.
copy it just
And I don't
doesn't make
think, and
sense.
here's what a lot of like aspiring producers think. They think we knew, I mean, I can't speak for the other producers. I'm speaking for myself. I never thought about it like I'm creating a sound. I just looked at it like I'm perfecting my way of making beats. Meaning like I wasn't musically trained. I didn't have anybody to tell me this is what a hip hop beat is supposed to sound like. These are the parts of the song you should sample. This is the way you play the bass line. I didn't have nobody to tell me that. So by default, I had to figure it out my own way. You know what I'm saying? Which helped
Mhm.
me create a sound because had I had a producer around me that was showing me, nah, do this. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. That sound would have been lost, and I'd have probably taken on their way of making beats. You know what I'm saying? So I tell
Yeah.
everybody, it's like even when people ask me, like, yo, oh man, show me how to make beats. That's not gonna help you. Because by default, you're gonna try to make beats the way I showed you. And that's not gonna help you create a sound. Like sometimes you almost have to figure out your own route. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
you have to figure out, yes, there's a definitive way to get from point A to point B, but you might figure out a way that I never thought of, which could turn you into that next producer. So I never want to teach anybody my way of making beats. I'll kind of, I'll show people the basics on how to do shit. But to me, in order to create a sound, it takes a lot of trial and error, a lot of failing and sounding stupid and sounding like, what the fuck is he doing? Until one day you figure it out and you're like, oh shit, I get it now. And by that time, you're so far ahead with your sound that people can't copy you because it took you X amount of years to figure out how to perfect that shit. You know what I'm saying? So making a sound just takes time, man. You can't wake up with that shit. It's trial and error. You just make music until you figure out, like, oh shit, a lot of my music has this in common. You might not even have known it while you were doing it.
Yeah. And then so it's just going through your own music
Right.
journey kind of thing.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
That's it.
when you started?
Yeah, I started fucking around with my first MPC in 98, end of 98, beginning of 99, because I got kicked out of college right before, I want to say right before Christmas break. And I think that was the end of 98. When I came home, my homeboy who had the MPC, he was going to Trinidad. Big shouts to my man Thriller. That was my old partner in Heatmakerz. He was going to Trinidad. He let me hold his MPC, and I just kind of taught myself in a weekend. And then,
Damn.
I make a long story short, 'cause I say this all the time. I ran into a guy by the name of Todd Terry. I told he, the beats I made over that weekend, I played it for him because he had an artist he wanted beats for. He ended up buying those two beats from me and was like, "Yo, I need more beats." I'm like, "Yo, I don't got equipment," and he ended up buying me like $20,000 worth of equipment, and I was off to the races, man. So,
Dang.
God is good, man. I know I'm giving you the
Dang.
short version of the story, but yeah, that's kind of how my career got jump started.
That's pretty crazy. And then you just started making beats for him and just pumping them out.
Yeah, I was just honestly like me. I'm the type of person when I want to learn how to do something, I go overboard in the sense of if people are practicing how to do something for 8 hours a day, I'm the dude that's practicing for 16. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like, I know this shit sounds crazy, but I'm like, when I don't know something, it bothers me. When I know that somebody else knows how to do something and I don't know how to do it, I almost become obsessive with it, where it's like, I have to figure this out. So I'm saying all that to say I got the MPC, I got the computer, I got the equipment that I got, and I literally locked myself in a basement for a couple of summers. So from 99 till about 2001, I was just like making beat after beat, not knowing if they're good or not. And like I said, I'm Ready was made in 2001. So around the end of 2000, beginning of 2001 is when I really started falling into my sound as far as like, okay, I get it now. You know what I'm saying? That was like,
Yeah.
it was enough trial and error at that point. I had made enough bad beats. I made enough good beats. I made it because I was making beats. And if I made a good one, my problem back then was I didn't know how I got there. It's almost like I
Okay.
did it by accident. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you get to a point where you figure it out like, oh shit, that was making my other beats sound not as good because I wasn't doing this. But when you're first starting out, you don't realize that. You're just working. But then sooner or later, this starts to be a method to your madness. Like, okay, cool. This is what I need to do when I run into this sample. And, you start to figure the game out more. So that's what I'm saying with anybody that's trying to create a sound. It's like, it's never going to be an overnight thing. It's going to be a lot of people telling you, I don't like that shit. This shit sounds like this. It sounds like that. You should do this. You should do that. And you're going to have to figure it out on your own, which,
Yeah.
like I said, it takes time.
Yeah. And that's like with anything, right? Like you gotta figure out everything on your own. That's what life is, right?
Yeah, it's a 1,000,000%, man. And the thing with when you're learning things at the beginning, you always think you're better than what you are. The minute you get a little progress, you're like, yo, I'm nice now. Now you want to let people hear shit, and then they tear you down again, and it humbles you, brings you back to square one, where you're like, all right, cool. Why isn't my music connecting with people? And then you have to really kind of strip your music apart and figure out why. And then because to me, music is all about a feeling. So if people don't feel something when they hear your music, somewhere something is getting lost in translation between you making the beat and creating a feeling and somebody else getting a feeling off of that. So you have to figure out what's missing. You know what I'm saying? Again, that goes back to the first thing you was asking me about being a producer. People don't
Mhm.
understand. It's almost like being a doctor. You have to. Why aren't people getting a feeling from this beat that was meant to be painful? How come they're not feeling what I feel? What's getting lost in translation? All of that comes along with being a producer. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
people, they don't look at it that deep. They look at it like, yo, I just need a producer to make me a beat. I mean, shit, if that's what you want, that's what you're gonna get. You know what I'm saying? But if you want a producer that's really gonna help you find out things about yourself that you didn't even know, then that, as an artist, then that's something else. Because that's what a good producer does. A good producer will make an artist get on a record that he or she doesn't particularly want to be on, and it'll be one of the best records they ever did in their life because the producer heard something that they didn't hear.
because I know there's a lot of cheap producers out there. There's a lot of, like you said, you just
Beat
go,
makers, yeah. There's a lot of
yeah,
beat makers out there. Producers, that's a earned title. That's a title you gotta earn, man. You can't just, a lot of dudes run around and go, what do you do? I'm a producer. No, you're not. You make beats. Being a producer is a whole. Like honestly, I don't feel like I became a real producer until about till I executive produced Wasted Talent with Jim Jones. And I know that sounds crazy because I did Diplomatic Immunity, I did Jewel's whole album, I did records for Wayne, I did a bunch of shit up until that point. But I didn't feel like I was a producer until I can sit back and say, all right, cool. This ain't really about my beats. I have to figure out what the album needs from what the album doesn't need. You know what I'm saying? And it's little things like that that makes you understand that this game is bigger than just making a fucking beat.
which was just when it comes to like an artist with like strong opinions that you're working with or something, and like you guys have a conflict.
Right.
How do you deal with like the creative differences? Like you were saying, how producers kind of guide.
I don't know. It's weird, man. Like I'm doing an interview real quick. So yeah, like with me, I like let's say with Jim, for instance, right? When I did the album with Jim, me and him would literally argue every other session about whether it was like I remember one song in particular. He was like, "Yo, I want you to take the sample out and just let the drums rock for 8 bars." And I'm like, "Yo, Jim, I'm not doing that." "Yo, what you mean?" Da, da, da. And we go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's kind of like one of them things where if I might sit and think like, am I just being stubborn or is this really not going to sound good? And if I try it and to me it doesn't sound good, I'm not going to sacrifice the sound of a record just because I'm trying to be like a yes man. I'm never, anybody that's worked with me know I'm not like that. And it's the same thing with Jim. If Jim feels strong about something, he gonna be, he gonna tell me like, yo, now we got to do this.
Yeah,
And so it's a give and take, man. It's like things are never gonna run 100% smoothly when you're working with an artist on a full project. You know what I mean? He's gonna
yeah,
have things he wants to do, or she's gonna have things she wants to do, and you might not agree with that. But this shit is really like you have to more so than being a producer, you got to understand how to be a people person. You understand? Like
yeah,
I approach a lot of those situations with humor because to me none of this shit is that serious. We making music for a living. You understand? Like you can't be in a more blessed position than that. So what am I? I'm gonna get mad if somebody doesn't like my opinion or you know what I mean? There's no room for that. This shit is supposed to be about having fun and making something that's gonna affect people in a certain way. So when I fight for something over a record, it's because of that. Because I feel like if I do this, it's gonna change the feel of the record. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, for sure.
but other than that, I'm not. It doesn't have to be my way or it's not gonna get done. I just fight for what I feel sounds the best or feels the best. You know what I'm saying when it comes
Yeah,
to the record.
and it keeps the integrity of the music too, right?
Right. I'm big on that because what happens is nothing bothers me more than when I did something with a record that I didn't want to do, and I'm listening to it years from now, and I'm like, why the fuck is that there? And then I remember why it's there is because somebody talked me into it, and I'm like, shit sounds terrible. Why would I do that? So I don't, to avoid those moments, I try to fight for what I believe in when it comes to a record.
But is there anything you wanted to add?
Nah, man, anybody that's, I appreciate all the Heatmakers fans that listen, that watch. And just keep supporting, man. I got some good things on the way. So, you know.
We'll keep an eye out for that. I'm looking forward to
Yes,
hearing
sir.
that. Well, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it.
My brother, I appreciate the interview, man. Be safe.
You
And
too.
I'll holler at you, my brother.
All right, take care, man.
All right.